All right, so like I said, I think most of you know me. I'll give a short, brief background for those that don't. I was born and raised in Alamo, Nevada, and went to UNLV, graduated in 2010, interviewed for the rotator position. Luckily, Eric was there, and he found that within his good graces to recommend me for that position. And I think there's a quota. You have to have like one UNLV grad per 500 UNR grads. So they selected me to be a rotating engineer at NDOT. This is circa 2010. 2011, 2012, some of the project managers, Adam Searcy, Nick Johnson, they knew I kind of like 3D modeling, and so they started having me do some fly-throughs for them. Centennial way back then, the Kern River gas line project, I did an animation, and they seemed to really like what I was doing. I liked what I was doing, and so I made the plan that someday I would start a visualization company. So in 2014, after I left NDOT, I worked for Kimley Horn for a year, and then 2014 started Civil FX. So we've been doing it the past 5 years. In 2015, we were asked to be part of the Project Neon Pursuit, the design builder with Atkins and Kiewit. We were selected, and so we got to be the design lead, or the visualization lead as part of the design build team on Project Neon. And in my time at NDOT, I had kind of had the vision that someday visualization didn't just have to be image and videos, but it could be interactive, like a racing game that you would play on a video game. And the budget on Project Neon was big enough that I felt that we could pull this off. We could make it interactive, use the video game talent and technology to bring Project Neon kind of to life interactively. And to their credit, they thought I was crazy, but they let me do it, and we pulled it off. The result, I think, was a good product. Everyone was happy about it. Looking back, we had no idea what we're doing, but thanks to the good people that we worked with, we were able to pull it off. So since then, we've been able to work on a lot of projects. Luckily, there have been a lot of big NDOT projects we've been able to work on, continually push the technology. Also, we've been able to work for other local agencies and started to branch out into some other states. So that leads us to today. And what I want to talk about is visualization, where it's been, where it currently is, and where it may be in the future, and how we're trying to kind of push it into that future of visualization. I have my TV, like if those of you that know me, you probably don't see me without my TV. It's just kind of the way that I like to show this kind of stuff. But I want to talk about interactivity, the accessibility, the quality, the phasing aspect, and mostly I'm going to be talking about interactive visualization, but visualization as a whole in the civil engineering and transportation industries. I'm going to talk about traffic. That's going to be an important part of this presentation, and then kind of the overall purpose of why we do this sort of thing. So interactivity, in the past, if you had ever dealt with visualization, we're talking the 90s, maybe even 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you'd be looking at an image or a video render. It'd take a long time to get there, or if you're looking at something interactively, it'd be wireframe. Nowadays, the stuff that we were talking about on Project Neon, it's a lot more realistic. We can navigate it in real time on a PC using a mouse. In the future, it will be multi-touch, real-time navigation on any device, and the graphics will be realistic. This multi-touch navigation, I was talking to Debbie Bonet about this. She was part of the Neon team, and it was, to go back and add it to Project Neon would be so easy now. It's just a line of code, we add it and it's done. But when we first added it, it was such a paradigm shift for us to be able to just zoom around the project at any time. I'm going to talk about How to Train a Dragon 3. So if you like this, if you haven't seen this movie and you're worried about me spoiling it, leave the room or cover your ears, because I'm going to spoil this movie. It's gonna make sense. So I'm watching How to Train a Dragon 3. It's a pretty cool movie. We took the team there a couple months ago for like an activity, and so at the end of the movie, the spoiler alert again, but they let the dragons go, and they stopped flying them because that's not nice to fly on the dragons. They need to go to their own home. And and so this guy, Hiccup, he's the main character. At the end, it shows him with his family, and he's sailing in a boat because he doesn't have dragons to fly anymore. He's on his boat, and it's this touching moment with his kids, and then he sees the dragon, and it's this touching moment, and I loved it. But then I just was caught with this thing. I was like, how lame would that be to ride a boat after flying on dragons your whole life? Yeah. So navigating on with the mouse like we used to on Project Neon, when I go back and do that, it feels like riding in a boat. And like once we did multi-touch, it's just so much easier. Let me speed it up. So this is the Reno Spaghetti Bowl project for those that can see it. And it's the whole city. And so when we went to the public meeting, we wanted to be able to show a lot of different aspects of it. We wanted to be able to jump over here to downtown and show this when we're talking about that. And then someone would come talk about that blessed airport flyover over at Plum. And so we would jump over here to Plum and talk about that. And we have cameras set up and such, but being able to use multi-touch, being able to use as many different forms of navigation as possible and having those available is very valuable. And I think in the future, you'll just be able to jump around even more than we realize today. All right, so accessibility. In the past, the way you would access these visualization was an image render or video render like we talked about before. Those are still super valuable, and we do those today. And that's something that we try and talk about when we're talking about a project. Like not every project is Reno Spaghetti Bowl and it's going to be this whole interactive thing. Like some of them it's just an image render, and some of it is just a simple fly through. There's this whole spectrum of visuals that you can do for a project. But so the image and videos are valuable, but now we're kind of moved into the present over here, which is like we're talking about the kiosk, the PC application, and then even the virtual reality and the driving simulators, which we've done for various projects as they make sense. Once we make it our focus, and when we build our budget and we manage the projects, we're always focusing on building a realistic, interactive 3D environment. And then from that, we can get any image render, any video, any virtual reality, anything that we want. And so we always focus on that realistic 3D environment. And what we do is very similar to making video games. I mean, it's the same technology, it's the same kind of team. The difference is we use engineering data and we focus on transportation projects. So the great, and this is great, you know, being able to go to a public meeting and show this is nice, but it's really hard to move this. This is our condensed version of the kiosk. Our old version, I bought a trailer because the stand and the TV and the case and everything was so big. This one now fits in the back of my truck. And quick story. So I'm from Alamo, which is a really small town, and I moved to Vegas, which is, to me, is like a big city, you know, like Vegas, it's big. There's buildings and stuff. And so, and there's traffic signals, which is another thing that we don't have in Alamo. So 3 weeks ago, I got invited to go down to talk to WSP and HNTV to their downtown LA offices and give them a presentation. They'd kind of seen what we'd been doing, and they wanted to give a presentation. So I was like, oh, easy, I do this all the time. I'm gonna pack up my equipment, I'm gonna drive down to downtown LA. I checked the Google Maps. I was like, okay, I need to arrive there at 11:45 so that I can show up in my pickup truck, unload the equipment, set it up, and give a presentation. And if any of you that have been to downtown LA are probably like laughing at me at this point. So I get there at 11:45, and I was gonna get sandwiches for the lunch and learn, and so I realized I couldn't park next to the sandwich shop. I had to go to a parking garage across the street, go up to the top floor where I could fit my pickup truck because the compact spots weren't big enough, walk down, get the sandwiches, go find another parking garage close to the place that we were going to, which was like 2 blocks away, and then it's uphill to this high-rise building. And so I'm like 15 minutes late already, dragging this cart full of this TV, all my equipment. I had this friend, I don't know if you guys know David Wu, he used to work for Louis Berger, so he's helping me. So we're like dragging this equipment through downtown LA with like the homeless people wondering what we're doing with like this $10,000 worth of equipment. And there's this person with a walker I see them up in front of me, and there's just this little sidewalk. There's all these tall buildings, and this person is on a walker, like coming towards us on the sidewalk, and I have this cart with the TV turned this way because I couldn't figure out how to turn it this way. And I was like, what am I going to do about this guy on the walker, probably homeless? And they jumped the curb, the like barrier rail, to get out of the way. So I'm like getting this thing through. We're covered in sweat, and so long story short, we're like 30 minutes late. We're covered in sweat, and I learned the logistics of downtown LA are different than the logistics of Las Vegas and especially Alamo. So long story short, the accessibility of this is getting better, but we need to improve on that. So what we're doing is the future, hopefully, will be something like this. So this is a web build. So this is just a link that we can send to anyone. You can put it on a project website. You can email it to someone, and it's just like the other one that I was showing. And you can show all the different alternatives. The quality and the speed are a little bit slower than the full PC version, but it's all here, and it's all on Chrome browser. And I think in the future we'll have even more applications like this. We can't do this with Reno Spaghetti Bowl and Centennial Bowl because there are these huge system-to-system interchanges, but for these small ped bridges or complete streets or grade separations, at this point we can do this. And in the future, I think we'll be able to do this on even the biggest projects. The technology will get better, our processes will get better, and you'll be able to view Project Neon by just sending a link and anyone can view it. Hopefully that's what the future looks like. But even today on those projects that you can't do that, what we can do is we set up cameras, we take pictures along the corridor in our 3D model, and then we can set up kind of a Google Street View. And so this is what we're currently doing on our projects. This is Boulder City Parkway. So you get the same benefits of the interactive one. Obviously the cars aren't going because these are pre-rendered images, but you can put these markers so that you can talk about different points on the project. And so the accessibility is just moving more and more towards something that we can give out to the general public rather than having the 200 people at the public meeting interact with the touchscreen. The quality continues to improve. Obviously, as we approach, if you guys have seen video games, the quality is photorealistic, and we're 10 or 20 years behind there, but you can see where we're going. And the projects that we're working on now, we're able to spend, as we focus on certain assets that are close to the project and we know that we'll get a lot of visibility, we kind of spend more time and budget on those, and we worry less about the ones in the distance. So the quality of the buildings, the context will continue to improve until it feels like you are actually in that context. Phasing is another element that's super important to those involved in the project, and then it also impacts the public. The traveling public gets impacted by the traffic closures. They also want to know when certain portions of the project are going to open to them, and so being able to phase out the project is very valuable. In this is one we've been working on out northwest of Las Vegas, and this one has a lot of phasing elements, and so we're able to build out the project by different phases. What we do is we first build out the existing groundwork using the aerials and terrain. We clean it all up, we build the existing bridges, and then we start adding proposed elements using inroads or other data. And then we have a phasing script where we assign each phase to that element, and then it turns on and off as you touch these buttons. And so we can show this is the one under construction right now, and then this is phase 3D, which will be the final build out. And then in this one, we were able to add they're called shaders, to kind of show which elements are under construction or which are part of which each of the phases. And so this is very valuable as it is today, but I think in the future there will be even more traffic closures and those things that will really bring the value to the public, because those are the things that affect them the most.
Is Sam, is this visualization available to the public or NDOT at this point of the Centennial Bowl?
Yeah, so what we've been doing, again, back to my accessibility problem, what we've been doing is this is a good question. So we have been buying laptops for the project managers, so the project manager can run the interactive version, because it's just kind of like a video game. And then the public, what we do is we make image and video renders that we can put on the project website or give to the news or whatever. One thing that we're testing, and I think will be a nice stopgap before we get to the point where this is just on every phone and every browser, is called GPU rendering. So it's like cloud gaming is what they call it. So basically all the processing is done in the cloud, and the project manager or anyone that wanted to see the project would just log in and then be able to access the project via any device, but the rendering's done somewhere else. And so that's something that we're testing probably in the near future. We'll be adding, instead of getting the laptops for the project managers. But we can give this to you on a flash drive. You just have to have a computer with a good GPU to actually run the thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it'd be super useful for our designers that are currently going through all these phases right now, trying to figure out how they fit together.
Right, in this project we worked a lot with the designers, with Dennis and those involved in the project, Kim Deagle, and they helped us build it, and by building it we also helped kind of the design and constructability along the way, especially with like the landscaping and those types of individuals as well. So we're trying to get it into as many hands as possible, but there are some technological hurdles that stop us at this point. All right, so traffic I think is the most exciting part of where we're at right now. And in the past, traffic would just be, sometimes you wouldn't even have it, or you would just have cars stuck on the road like it was a freeze frame or something. And Project Neon, we developed a system that was just free flowing, because when you're doing interactive, you can't keyframe animate it like you would on a movie, because then after let's say you keyframe animate 3 minutes, after that 3 minutes it would have to reset or stop or something. And so we had to have a free flowing system that we developed for Project Neon, and we've kind of improved that as we've gone along. Free flowing is nice, but then there are things like merging off ramps, or exiting, or heaven forbid you get to a traffic signal. Those sorts of things are much more complicated than what our original system could have. And so we've continued to improve that to what we see today. One thing that's cool, I'll show it here, because our pedestrian system uses the same system as our traffic system. Go to a public meeting or you talk to a project manager and you never have the right amount of traffic. So I'm going to show you with the pedestrians, but imagine that this is traffic flow. The public will come and there's only a few cars, and they'll say, that's unrealistic. We know that it's going to be back-to-back, bumper-to-bumper traffic. And then you'll bump it up, and then the project manager will say, why are you showing a traffic jam? This project is going to solve all the problems. We're never in the right spot. And so we developed a system where we can automatically adjust the density of the traffic or the pedestrians on the fly. And so that's very valuable, to adjust it. And it's actually valuable from a performance standpoint. If we're running one of these projects on a less powerful device, we can turn down the traffic so that it will run more smoothly. So having that flexibility is very valuable for a variety of reasons. So this, on Centennial Bowl, again, this has just been the past couple of months, we started developing our own smart traffic system. Try and get out of the way for you. So now the cars are actually, they're thinking, they're watching out for traffic signals, they're watching out for other vehicles. We've even noticed some suicidal pedestrians that just start walking across the road, and so the cars will actually watch out for those and they'll stop, and it'll create a traffic jam, which I don't know which is more realistic, running over the pedestrian or the traffic jam in Las Vegas. Both equally realistic, probably. But if you watch long enough, the cars will back up in queue, and then they'll go through the traffic signal, and it will just go forever. And this is important for our interactive visualization, because sometimes our public meetings can go on for hours, and so we need a system that will just go on indefinitely. But then as I go to conferences and as I talk to individuals about what we do, the most common question I get when they see the cars is they say, is that VisSim traffic? Is that actually simulated traffic? And I've known that it was possible to bring in simulated traffic for a long time, and with SBX last year, we kind of did it, but we knew it was a problem that was going to have to be solved. And so this is the Tropicana I-15 project. We have the public meeting next week. This is Jeff's project, so come out and support this project next week, next Thursday, and so on. And so the problem with bringing, well, there are a lot of problems with bringing in the VISM data. One is we use Unity 3D, which is a game engine, and to our knowledge, no one had ever brought that FZP file into Unity, at least not directly. There was a way through Civil View, which is a 3ds Max plugin, and you could bring it in and finally get it into here with a lot of steps. It was a huge file, and so we put our developer to work to make a direct connection into Unity. And so again, this is the first project, and we'll continue to improve it, but this traffic you see here is actually the AIMSIM traffic, which is exported as a VISM FZP file. And this is very valuable if you're talking about the project, not only to show which areas may have issues, and again, this is existing, but also we have the no action 2040 here, and you can show what might happen if the project isn't built. The backups, both here on this ramp, also on Tropicana, get pretty bad, and so you show the proposed and you show that it's more free flowing. You do this, you slow down the traffic, or you can just turn it up super fast. So it's kind of cool to be able to see how quickly it moves through. You can watch all the movements without spending 15 minutes watching that same amount of time. So this is going to be valuable not only on this project, but a lot of projects moving forward. We'll be able to integrate that data. Right now it's just these kind of shapes. They're cars, they're not textured, but by our next project we'll be able to have actual cars with rotating tires that are textured, and hopefully it will be indistinguishable from our smart traffic system that we've kind of developed over the years. So I'm running out of time. Just in conclusion, I think a lot about this stuff, a lot about not just 3D visualization, but why do we need to keep pushing it forward? Why do we need to add these new features? Why isn't what we did on Project Neon, which is 3 years ago, that would be just as valuable today? It still tells the story, it communicates the project, which is the goal. And so I think we've been lucky in Nevada to have a lot of interesting projects, and my relationship with many of you, many of the public agencies, a lot of the NDOT projects, it's allowed us to kind of push the technology. And we're not the only ones that are doing visualization and transportation. We're not even the only ones that are doing interactive visualization within transportation. There are a lot of those that are kind of pushing this technology. But I think we do have a unique opportunity in the Las Vegas area because we've been so focused on improving this specific type of interactive visualization on these major projects. We're able to be one of the leaders in the industry. And so I think, as much as we could just push back and say, why don't we just keep doing things the way that we've been doing, it works. I think there are a lot of opportunities moving forward to push the technology, to see what's possible in 5-10 years, where we'll be able to communicate these projects as accurately as possible to as many people as possible. And hopefully that's where we're headed. And I just want to thank all of you that are involved in these projects that we're able to work with. And I appreciate you guys coming and hearing me out. And that's it. Thank you.